Hey, what is up, models? It is T-Seeker here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 1 of What If Deku Was Spider-Man. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So begin. One Sunday morning, Izuku Midoriya was headed to school. As he left his house, the green-haired boy noticed smoke was rising in the distance. There was a faint sound of explosions in the distance. At first, he thought he was imagining it. As Izuku made his way to school, the smoke started to get more intense. The faint sound the boy had heard earlier started to grow louder as it was accompanied by the strange sound of something flying around the area.
This style of attack seems familiar. Where have I heard about a villain using explosives before?
Midoriya started to mutter to himself as he analyzed the situation. He didn't have to wait long before the answer presented itself to him. As he looked around the area, he saw an overturned van with the Oscorp logo on it. As the emerald-eyed boy started to pick up the pace in an attempt to get to school, he tripped over something on the ground. As Izuku Midoriya was recovering, he noticed what he tripped over, what appeared to be a broken cage. The middle school student started to sprint towards school as he saw the corpses that were around the van.
Where's the Green Goblin in Japan? Isn't he a villain that fights Spider-Man?
Izuku said in fear as a spider climbed onto his bag. As he sprinted past the sign the animal was on. The familiar cackle of the villain could be heard as the explosion started to grow closer to the green-haired boy's location. He had read reports about the villain during his free time. The one thing that stood out to him was the fact that the full details of the Green Goblin's attacks were never released to the media. The only thing that stuck out was the fact that the goblin frequently liked to use hostages as shields anytime a hero tried to arrest him. There were rumors that he was trying to find a way to replicate the abilities of the heroes. As the green-haired boy made it to school from the constant running, his teacher ushered him into the classroom. The rest of the boys' class was hiding under their desks as they tried to avoid making a sound.
Deku, hide under your desk. There's some crazy person running around attacking the city,
Bakugo said in a surprisingly quiet tone. Everyone slowly started to tense up as explosions started to draw closer. Katsuki noticed that his green-haired classmate was getting progressively more nervous as the explosion seemed to get closer. The blonde-haired boy made the connection that Izuku had already made. One of the reasons the villain wasn't apprehended was due to the fact that he always caused heavy damage in civilian areas. There was a brief pause in the explosions. As everyone started to relax a little bit, a small orange device was thrown through one of the windows in the classrooms. Everyone stared in horror as a bright green light started to blink on top of the device. For a brief second, everything was quiet, and then the device detonated. A bright flash of light filled the room as the explosion ripped through the room.
Where's the spider that Oscorp has? Their spiders seem attracted to the middle school and high school students,
The Green Goblin said to the few remaining students that had survived the explosion.
I finally have an ally that can destroy that damn spider once and for all.
The goblin slowly entered the destroyed classroom as the building started to catch fire. Despite the situation, Izuku grabbed Bakugo and tried to pull him to safety. The green-skinned person slowly left the room as he went to cause chaos around the rest of the school. As the villain started to circle the school, a series of explosions soon followed. The fire alarm bells started to ring out as the alarms detected the fires. Bakugo started to look around as he slowly regained consciousness. The first thing that he noticed was the state of the room. Normally, the loud blonde would react aggressively and try to fight anyone he thought was looking down on him. However, the villain made it painfully obvious that a middle school student couldn't fight him. As he fully regained his senses, the explosive blonde realized that he was being dragged by Izuku.
Nerd, why is that villain attacking a school?
Katsuki asked in a hushed tone to the person who might know the answer.
It's his method of distracting heroes. He knows they will try and save the civilians around them. This way he gets a chance to escape and acquire information about his target.
Deku said as he tried desperately to remain calm.
Based on what he said, the villain seems to be looking for a spider.
Do you know if anyone was able to contact the pros for help? Bakugo asked as the destruction started to set in.
I doubt it. The villain seems to start attacking the school moments after he blew up the classroom.
Izuku said with a stutter as the adrenaline he felt stopped covering up the fear he felt. As another explosion tore through the building, the green-haired boy felt a sting of pain as something bit onto his left hand. Before he could cry out in pain, another bomb went off nearby, causing the two middle school students to flee down the hall. Time seemed to slow down for the two boys as the hall in front of them exploded. As Bakugo and Midoriya recovered, they noticed that the entire hallway was bathed in flames. The villainous figure towered over them on his glider.
I think kids will work just fine as hostages. I will use you as a distraction.
The villain said as he was kicked off his glider by a figure in red and blue. Really, Goblin, using children as hostages, that's low even for you. The mysterious figure said as they examined destruction around him. You're only proving that Oscorp made the right decision to separate itself from you.
How is it that you're still the first hero to track me down, Spider?
The Green Goblin snarled.
You've been a thorn in my side for far too long.
The villain snarled as he threw two bombs at the children, who were petrified from the villain. Without a second thought, the hero grabbed the two middle schoolers and sprinted away from the bombs. After the explosion, everyone could hear the maniacal laughter from the villain as he left the school on his glider. As if to signify that the villain had done what he sought out to do, the sounds of explosions slowly stopped. It was almost as if the lack of explosions taunted the hero with their inability to capture him. Spider-Man quickly evacuated the two students from the school before he went back to try and save as many people as he could. Both Bakugo and Midoriya moved away from the building out of fear that the villain might return. As the situation seemed to calm down, the two boys were left wondering why the villain attacked the school and seemed to leave with nothing. The situation left them shocked, as it seemed like a villain was using tactics to avoid dealing with the heroes. Izuku looked around in horror. The green-haired boy looked around as he tried to comprehend the lengths a villain would go to achieve their goal. This served as a wake-up call for the boys, since they would have to contend with the villains that had no regard for civilians. The emerald-eyed boy slowly started to feel a dull throbbing in his hand as the adrenaline started to fade. His left hand started to heat up as the venom from the bite started to affect him.
Kaja, do you think this happened because All Might briefly went to the United States?
The green-haired boy said as he stuttered in fear from the situation.
Wasn't the villain the CEO of a company that focused on scientific discoveries?
Bakugo asked in a normal tone.
He did seem to be searching for an ally to defeat someone he referred to as a spider.
Izuku muttered nervously as he looked around. It makes sense that he would be searching for allies to defeat me, Spider-Man said as he dropped a few more students off. I'm one of the few people who can track the goblin down. Us heroes will put him behind bars one of these days. With that, Spider-Man shot a web and swung his way back into the building. Midoriya started to feel the world spin as the venom from the spider started to modify his body. The world started to grow dark as the boy's DNA was changed by the spider bite. Bakugo noticed that his friend was looking a little pale. His first thought was to check his friend for injuries as several fire trucks and ambulances arrived. Despite the situation, Katsuki noticed that there was some swelling on his friend's hand. At least the only thing he felt was a burning desire to grow strong enough to help defeat that villain. As he went to ask Izuku about his opinion of the situation, the green-haired boy passed out. As the situation was slowly contained, the American hero returned. He went back to the two boys since they had heard the villain monologue during the attack. Hey kid, what happened to your friend? Spider-Man asked when he noticed the green-haired boy on the ground.
I don't know, he just passed out.
Bakugo said as he started to panic over losing another possible friend. The hero started to examine the middle school student for injuries. Despite the mask, Spider-Man's eyes visibly narrowed as he saw the spider bite on the kid's left hand.
I suggest we take him home. He'll be fine once he gets some rest,
Spider-Man said as he examined the injury.
This won't be a fun discussion to have. Do you know where the boy lives?
I know where he lives, but how is that relevant to the situation at hand?
Bakugo grumbled loudly at the hero.
Let's get the kids home. I will explain the effects of the spider bite to you. I wonder what powers the kid will get from the bite,
Spider-Man mumbled.
What are your names?
I'm Katsuki Bakugo.
The atomic blonde said as the shock started to wear off from the situation.
The green-haired boy's name is Izuku Midoriya. What do you mean, powers? It's quirkless.
The best way to explain it would be the spider gave him a quirk when it bit him.
Peter examined as he carefully tried to figure out what powers the kid would get.
Sadly, I won't be able to say what Izuku got until he either displays the abilities or we recover the spider that bit him. Oscorp has been messing around with the genome for a while now.
The normally loud blonde watched as the hero picked the green-haired boy up in silence. The concept of giving someone a quirk was surprising. However, Spider-Man's answer only filled Bakugo with even more questions. One question that kept coming back was if the villain would return for his friend now that the spider bit him. The walk to Izuku Midoriya's apartment was surprisingly quiet as no one knew how to strike up a conversation. Spider-Man was busy trying to figure out how to convince the kid's mother to let him become a hero after what happened at his school. Meanwhile, Katsuki was trying to process everything he had heard. He also wondered how many people survived the explosions the villain had caused around the school. The air was tense as they approached the building where the green-haired boy lived.
Does that mean Deku has a chance to become a hero now?
Bakugo asked loudly.
Being a hero is about more than just your quirk. It's about your desire to help people, to try and save those in need. Society often ignores those with a heart of a hero just because they lack a quirk or a quirk that society likes,
Spider-Man said with a groan.
The desire to help those ostracized from society ended up creating the Green Goblin.
Before we get back into the video, I'd like to talk about our new channel, Celestia, our channel dedicated to all things Dungeons and Dragons. Currently, we have a series breaking down the different spells in D&D, and soon we'll be starting some new series as well. So if you're a fan of D&D, or have an interest in learning about it, check it out! Additionally, if there is something you've always wanted to see get made into a video, head over there and leave a comment mentioning it. Spider-Man knocked on the door as he finally decided on what to say to the mother. Thankfully, there was a nearby beach that could be used to train the two boys if they wanted to become heroes. It took a moment before the door opened to reveal Izuku's mother.
What happened to my son?
Inko said as she stared at the stranger and a childhood friend of her son.
There was a villain attack at his school today and I wanted to explain it to you,
Spider-Man said calmly as he chose his response carefully.
Thankfully, other than a spider bite, nothing else happened to him.
Inko invited the two inside. Once the hero and Bakugo entered the apartment, Inko closed the door behind them. Despite the hero's calm demeanor, she didn't like the fact that he was being careless with her son after a spider bite.
I'm the American hero Spider-Man. His friend here informed me that he was also quirkless,
Peter cautiously explained.
Just like your son, I was bitten by a spider, and that's how I got my quirk. Your sign is showing the signs that the spider that bit him gave him a quirk.
How does a spider bite give someone a quirk?
Izuku's mother asked incredulously. She also motioned for everyone to take a seat in the dining room.
Oscorp was developing a method of giving quirkless people a quirk. It was an attempt to level the playing field for everyone,
the hero said with a sigh as he brought up some painful memories.
They used spiders as test subjects since their venom would start breaking down the tissue. Long story short, they successfully achieved that at the cost of their CEO's sanity.
Why did it go downhill?
Katsuki asked a question everyone was thinking rather loudly.
Norman Oscorp got reckless in trying to create results that gave me my powers, and it slowly made his quirk stronger.
Spider-Man said with a voice filled with regret.
The alternative personality that his quirk gave him slowly started to consume him until the villain we know as Green Goblin was the only thing that remained.
Will the villain go after my son now? That is, developing a quirk similar to yours?
The green-haired woman asked nervously.
Only time will tell if the villain might continue to harass Oscorp or might switch your son.
Peter Parker calmly stated.
It's why I wanted to train your son, even if he decided he didn't want to be a hero after what happened to his school.
Inko considered what was said for a moment. She knew her son always wanted to be a hero, but she didn't want anything bad to happen to her son. The room fell eerily quiet as everyone considered the options. It felt awkward having this discussion without the person who had to make the decision. Fortunately, Izuku started to wake up as soon as there was a pause in the conversation. The green-haired boy woke up with a startle as he thought everything had been a terrible nightmare. However, the burning sensation in his left hand quickly reminded him of the fact that the nightmare really happened. His desire to become a hero only grew stronger as he wanted to prevent what happened from happening again. His right hand grabbed the armrest of the chair and started to crush the armrest.
Now that you're awake, you might want to relax your grip,
Parker said calmly as he pointed to the armrest getting crushed.
It seems you already got the spider strength aspect of the spider abilities. Do you want to become a hero? Would you like me to train you so you can master your new abilities?
I want to be a hero that can prevent another attack like the one the goblin unleashed at my school.
Izuku Midori said with a nervous stutter as he didn't like feeling helpless.
Please train me, sir.
Very well. Since your school will most likely be cancelled for a few weeks while they try to figure out what to do next, I want you to meet me at Togaba Municipal Beach Park every day, starting at 9 in the morning,
Spider-Man said as he stood up.
Keep in mind, I will push you to your limits because we need to figure out what you can do with your quirk. I also recommend you find a sparring partner.
With that, Spider-Man got up and left the room and went to the front door. He opened the door and jumped over the railing before web swinging away. Despite the decision that was made, everyone who remained was nervous. Inko went to the door and closed it. A smile appeared on her face as she realized that her son could achieve his dream of being a hero.
Hey nerd, you better pick me as your sparring partner,
Katsuki said as he broke the silence.
You're not the only one who wants to stop that villain. We need to get justice for all the people that the villain killed.
Who else would I have picked, Kachan? The only question I have is, how do we prevent the goblin from attacking the civilians?
Midoriya said as he considered the problem the villain created.
Simply, we just have to work together as a team. One of us has to fight the villain while the other one rescues the civilians,
the blonde-haired boy said with a mild annoyance.
Maybe that other spider guy knows something that could help. He seems to have experience dealing with that villain.
With that, Bakugo stormed out of the apartment and went back to his house. The apartment fell silent as the last of the guests left. Despite the horror that Izuku had seen, he couldn't help but smile because he had a chance to pursue his dream. The next day, the two friends met up at the location the hero had told them to. They were greeted by mountains of trash on the beach. Both of them were at a loss for words as they wondered why the hero wanted them here. As 9 rolled around, Spider-Man appeared and swung over to them.
Before we get sparring, I'm going to have the two of you clear the beach. Taking care of the community is just as important as rescuing people or stopping villains,
Peter Parker said as he looked around in amazement at the mountains of trash.
This will help Midori understand the raw strength he has, while helping to strengthen your bodies. Just remember an over-reliance on your quirk could cause you problems in the future. The two future heroes were motioned to start cleaning the beach once the pro hero finished explaining. It seemed like he didn't want to wait for the boys to ask questions about the training methods. Peter didn't want to wait because rumor had it that the Green Goblin was in contact with a villain named All for One. From what the symbol of peace had told him, this was a villain that was just as powerful as he was.
Spider-Man followed the two boys as they started to pick up items to move to the trash.
Some advise pros are not the only ones who team up. I have to deal with a group called the Sinister Six, which formed because villains wanted to take me down.
Spider-Man said as motivation for the aspiring heroes to train harder.
Smart villains won't give you a chance to rest, so you need a team to help you so you don't have to deal with everything yourself.
The two boys considered what had happened yesterday and realized the importance of having a team that could help. However, both of the potential heroes didn't want to be the weak link in a team. For Bakugo, the training was particularly challenging because his sweat would often ignite when he didn't want it to. Sometimes it even made the situation worse by causing the pile of trash to collapse towards him. The training showed him just how much he relied on his explosions. Despite the physical enhancements that the quirk gave him, it seemed the lack of physical exercise over the years hurt him. He also had to be careful because sometimes he could crush an item of trash without meaning to. Thankfully, if the trash started to collapse on him, a sense suddenly appeared to warn him of the danger. However, he learned that he had to understand what the danger was before he could react properly to it. Every so often, he noticed a strange glow of green energy start to form around his hands. However, the glow never did anything other than light up a darker area. The pro hero told him that the green energy would be usable in combat once Midori had progressed further in his training. It seemed that this spider was part of an energy project labeled number 42, based on the information that Spider-Man received. At first, the task of cleaning the beach seemed daunting since there were mountains of trash. The training seemed even more ridiculous once school figured out how to bring everyone back and continue teaching the students safely. Despite the rather daunting challenge, the two aspiring heroes continued to train as hard as they could in an attempt to get strong enough to bring down the goblin. The scary part about all of this was the fact that the Green Goblin seemed to be laying low for now. Spider-Man explained that the villain only did that when he was planning something big. After 5 months, the two friends had finally managed to clear the beach off. They waited until the pro hero arrived to explain what they were doing now that the beach had been cleared.
What do you think we are going to do now that we cleaned the beach?
Bakugo asked, having learned to rein his temper in slightly.
I know, Kachan. He is a pro hero after all. He might want to teach us as martial arts since he doesn't want us to rely on our quirks.
Midoriya said with a nervous stutter.
I wish he would stop trying to force this down our throats.
Katsuki grumbled.
Our quirks are a part of us. We need to train them.
You're correct about that, Bakugo. I decided that your training will be divided into 2 parts.
Spider-Man said as he landed next to them.
One day, you will be training your quirks, and the next day, you will be training without your quirk. Remember, you might not have the ability to use your quirk to your fullest.
How are you going to work on our quirks?
Izuku asked. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all of this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our sponsors. PDF Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Mealies, Adam Sagel, XAV Beats 03, Zill, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd like to thank all of our YouTube members. Toy Casta, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF 2364, and Knuckles, Rimuru Tempest, Angel Jurez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Refek 135. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept numbers from 16 years old to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it for today's video. So, thank you all for watching, and have a great day.